Whatever you call your circumstance is part of the problem because you will only look at it like whatever it is that you call it, right? Therefore, whatever that you try to come together with as a strategy to resolve it is not going to be as ideal because of what you called it. Have you considered that even if you put together the best plan and come up with the best strategies, the likelihood of it succeeding or even you engaging in it is very slim. And the chances of you seeing it through as planned is also very unlikely. And then you begin to label it as, I keep letting myself down. Why is this happening to me? Why do I keep doing this to myself? Why are things still not working out for me? Even though I know what to do, at least you think you know what to do. This is because you have not yet introduced yourself to the version of you that will actually see you through to the achievement of your goals, see you through this process, this season of change over to the achievement and the accomplishment of your goals. So, since the sole problem here, the core of the problem here is that you haven't introduced yourself to the version of you that will actually achieve and accomplish all these things, where do we start? Where do we start? As you can see, this is the best drawing of a tree ever. If I did this in primary school, my mom would put this on the fridge. I don't know if y'all still have those paintings in the house. They happen to vanish as we grow. I don't know what happens to the artwork, the masterpiece we've done in our childhood, but they just happen to vanish. So this over here is going to be our model for the day. We're going to use her over here to give our demonstrations. So where do we start, right? You want to find a strategy to solve your problem, right? Okay, cool. I've got this issue. How do I resolve the issue, right? Focusing on the issue is a flawed process. Very flawed. You are bound at some point to crash, hit a wall, disappoint yourself over and over and over and over again. Instead, what do? You do not go for the strategy. Instead, before the strategy, something happened. And you say that, okay, because of what happened, this is what this means. You gave a meaning to that thing that happened, right? And whatever meaning you gave brought you to thinking of this strategy. Okay, because this happened and this is what it is, this is how you resolve this. But that could have been a misdiagnosis. It could really have been a misdiagnosis. You cannot have a paining body and then you go chop off your leg to see if that's going to resolve it, right? That's what the strategy is doing. You're coming up with a strategy, not having figured out the core of the thing. So the strategy will not work. You will keep letting yourself down. Time will keep going and you're going to be left under the impression that the things you know to do are the things you're actually supposed to do. Whilst when you eventually go ahead and bottle up some drive and some tenacity, energy, you actually go ahead and do them and it doesn't work out. And then you give up and then you say, but I've tried everything. Now you didn't try everything. At least try the right thing. How do you do this? In this demonstration, we're going to go with it step by step so we can find ourselves here. This is where we want to find ourselves. This is not where we're starting, right? So, first of all, this over here is a seed, right? This is the seed. So now, in this illustration, the seed is your state. Your state. Your state. Cool. Remember I told you, something happened and then you gave that thing which happened a meaning. And based on the meaning you gave it, you derive from it the strategies to resolve that thing that you gave it the meaning. But it could have been a misdiagnosis, as I said. So your state, this is mostly based on emotions. So something must have happened and then you got angry. Something must have happened and you got happy. Something must have happened and you got sad, you got embarrassed, you got humiliated, right? You got a very frustrating emotion out of the thing that happened, right? Somebody died and you didn't have the money to cover the medical bills. You feel embarrassed, you feel humiliated, you feel small. And you tell yourself, I will never let this happen again. This is never going to repeat itself ever, ever, and ever again. And in that moment, you tell yourself, okay, cool, the problem is money. and then you go ahead and try to get the money, and you keep trying to get the money, but then as a human being, you're going to lack this. Let me do better. You all deserve better. Let me write that better. Fulfillment. It's fulfillment with double L here. Anyways, the point is you're going to lack fulfillment. Why? So in that, when you think that the problem is money, you're going to keep following. Okay, cool. I have to get money so that I never find myself in a situation like that. Now listen, you will only feel fulfilled when a similar situation happens where you have to respond to something with money, right? But then when you find yourself in another situation where you didn't defend yourself well, you didn't well articulate a thought, and then you lost a contract, then what are you going to say? I'm going to make sure this never happens again. What? Me not being able to express my thoughts effectively enough to get my desired outcome. And then you go ahead and do that now. Now you're running towards building you speaking better, articulating your thoughts much better, creating a great relationship between your mind and your mouth. And you're now speaking your thoughts as you intend them to be understood. But then later on, you find yourself again into another situation that requires something different. Now, you will never find fulfillment because life doesn't evolve around that scenario, right? Now, you cannot also live your whole life based on what happened that one specific day. So, the seed is your state. So, if you were angry, now, the next part, from the seed comes the roots. The roots begin to grow from the seed, right? The roots are the story, right? The meaning that you give to the situation. This thing happened because I'm angry. You give the story out of anger. So whatever it is that you say, you feel, whatever it is that you say is going to be based on how you feel, based on the state you are in, right? So you're going to give it a meaning. That is the one power we have as human beings. One thing we can definitely control is what we make things, what we define things to be, right? Someone could call you and check up on you. Hi, how are you doing? Oh, you're all right. Cool. One person could be like, why are they hitting me up now? Do they want something? You're going to become skeptical, right? Whilst the very same event, very same scenario, but then you think, oh, that's very nice of them. He thought about me. That's very kind. People still care. And you perceive it as a kind gesture, right? That is because the very same thing happened, but based on your state, you're going to give it a meaning. And the story that you give there is going to be the roots. Now that is going to be the foundation. It came from the seed, but now the foundation will be the story, right? And then this over here is this. The strategy. And I'll tell you why the trunk is the strategy. Because the branches over here is what you do, right? It's what you do about it. So based on your state, you're going to give it a specific story. You're going to give it a meaning, right? And based off of that meaning, you're going to come up with a strategy. And what you're going to do is going to come out of your strategy, right? You come up with a game plan. You say, okay, cool. I'm going to do this. From now on, I'm going to take these courses on this. I'm going to start training on that, right? And you evolve your life all around this. I have a beautiful story to say. And it's kind of painful, but let me go on. You go ahead and come up with a strategy based on the story you have given it. You come up with a strategy, and then out of the strategy is what you're going to do, how you actually initiate, right? And then after the initiation, the results. These are the results, the fruits. Right? So we're going to see the fruits. If the fruits are good, then you were right from the beginning. If the fruits are terrible, then you were wrong from the beginning. Now, why is it important to start with your state? Because that's what you should expect to get out of the whole process. Your fruit is only what you planted. You cannot expect a mango to come out of an apple seed. So whatever you plant, you should expect. Right? So there's been situations and scenarios, and this is unfortunate. There's been people that found themselves with like a chronic illness or something like that, or a family member has like a terrible illness. And what people instinctively do is like they start looking up how to, where to, how to, all the things for you to mitigate the person dying, to help them, if there's any exercises to do, if the diet should be changed, and whatsoever, right? Now, we begin to put together a strategy so good, and we succeed so well in putting together a strategy for us to do these things and get the desired result. And we have deviated from who we actually are. You're now going to maybe start a foundation to help these people. Maybe you are supposed to start a foundation that helps all medical illnesses. Maybe you're supposed to start a foundation that helps all humankind. Or you're supposed to do something that is also impactful as you did this, but you deviated. This could be the case. This could be the case. But that's just a little story that, I think about these kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, you had your mom who had this illness. You looked up about the illness so much that you're now an expert. Your mind is filled with information on this thing. And whatever we focus on, our intention follows. And then you become so intentional about this thing, and then you're now so passionate about this thing, and then you swallowed and consumed and everything about you. Now, if you work that muscle so much, guess what? You will have that muscle to flex. And you become that person. It could have been that you were actually brought here for that and that happened, but not to get into people's religions and belief systems, but do you think your God would allow that something so unfortunate should happen for you to actually have, okay, let's not have that conversation right now. So, your state, if you're angry, it is advised to not make a decision. If you are happy, it is advised to not make a promise. Anytime you seek to grow, any single time that you seek to develop any single thing, follow this structure. You want to get these results. So in order for you to get these results, you need to do something. For you to do something, you need to put together a plan, put together a strategy, right? But for you to put together the strategy, it has to come from whatever story, whatever meaning you have of the thing. And you're going to give the meaning from the state you're in. So based on the state you're in, everything could change. Every single thing could change. So this will help you. This structure will help you diagnose things much more accurately and not chop off a leg because you're having a body pain. Maybe it was your shoulder. Now the leg is gone. Then what? You're going to try to do your arm. Then, until you figure it out. Now there's no body left for existence. So that's it. This will help us. This is personal development 101. I hope this was helpful. Follow for more.